Right, L.A.B putters. Now they might be the most talked about club in the game of golf over the past 2 years, full of tech and full of science. But a lot of people think putting is more art than science, so let's find out. So I've teamed up with my friends at Golf Clubs for Cash, one of the leading retailers of pre-loved equipment in the UK. And I've delved into their archives to dig out two of the goats of putting. I've got the Wilson AA02, just a pure blade, and I've got the original Ping Answer. And I'm going to be putting these putters up against one another in a series of little tests to find out how far technology has come and if it can actually help you. Right, before we start testing these putters out, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the differences and the tech of what we've got in front of us here. So starting with the Wilson AA02, we could probably split this up into a couple of categories, but I want to go into toe hang first. So this is very much just a pure blade putter. When I hold this unaided on the shaft and just let that putter hang how it wants to, the toe pretty much points straight at the ground. We call that like a full toe hang. What that tends to do is promote a little bit more opening and closing of the face during the stroke. Then we go up to the Ping Answer. That's kind of in the middle. It's got about a 45-degree toe hang. You'll notice the face, the toe doesn't point straight down. It's pointing off to the side a little bit at around that 45-degree angle. So that's kind of a mid-toe hang putter, we'd call that. And then you get into the L.A.B, which we're calling zero torque. If I hold that unaided, it tends to want to orientate itself toe up. And what L.A.B suggests is there's zero torque force on the putter face, so it just wants to match the path of your stroke. So it'd be interesting to see how that performs from short range. The other bit I want to measure here is kind of a stability story, and to me that generally comes from the depth of the head. I always find. So if we look again at this Wilson AA02, when you put it down on the ground, you'll see from the leading edge to the back edge it's barely over a centimetre in depth. When you've got that, it's very difficult to put masses of MOI in. MOI tends to come from moving that weight back in the head and adding stability. So again, for me, that's going to be interesting from long range. If I miss-hit the putt, how much am I going to lose from there? Now, the Answer also from front to back isn't that deep. It's a touch deeper than the AA02, but what they have done is they've implemented some perimeter weighting. So we've got a bit of heel and toe weight, whereas all the mass is evenly spread across that Wilson AA02. So in theory, that should give me a little bit more insurance on strike on those longer putts. Then we get into the L.A.B, and again, clearly this is the deepest front to back. We've got more depth from the leading edge to the back edge there, and we've also got these wings which act as perimeter weighting. So we've got a lot of depth, we've got some perimeter weighting, so in theory this should very much be the most stable. But let's not just talk about it, let's test it, and let's go to 8 feet, and I'll tell you why now. 50% of putts from 8 foot on the PGA Tour are missed and 50% are hold. So this should be a good barometer and a good test for these putters. So we're going to hit 10 with each, we're going to count up the score and see how they get on. I'm going to start with the AA02 first. This is a relatively straightish uphill putt. Five out of 10, bang on PGA Tour average. So let's go and try again and let's see how the Ping Answer gets on. Okay, that's more like it. So that was 3 missed there, so 7 out of 10. Let's get on and try again with the L.A.B. I have to say, I mean, I'm a big proponent of the L.A.B technology and that kind of theory that the club face doesn't want to rotate away from square. In my head, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of people who just think zero torque is an option that can be fitted alongside toe hang and stuff like that. Again, to me, I'm maybe a bit more of an absolutist. I just can't fathom a world where I'd want my putter to actively rotate away from my path. And from short range, at least, that showed out really, really well and come out on top there at 9 out of 10. So, but we all know putting's more than that, right? So we're not just going to have to hold out from 8 feet. We're going to have to do some lag putting and get some feeling. And a lot of the tour players I've spoken to actually about zero torque have commented to me that they struggle a little bit from longer range because they feel like when the face isn't rotating, they lose a bit of awareness of where that club head is in time and space, and as such lose a little bit of feel on those longer putts. Well, let's put it to the test. I can see a really nice kind of 80-foot uphill swinger here. Let's test all three out against one another. How we're going to do it is I'm going to take my little tape measure. We're going to go from the same place. We're going to hit 6 putts with each, 3 up, 3 back. We're going to measure them all out, and the winner of this round will be the putter that has the cumulative lowest distance from the hole. I hope that makes sense. Let's get at some putts. Right, so for the second part of this test, we've come for a long range putt. So this one I've found here, to that top flag up there on the putting green. It's the best part of 70 feet up the hill, up a couple of tiers actually, so this will be a good test for these putters. But before you get in the comments and start complaining about it's not a fair test because of the order and stuff, I agree, it's difficult to get a scientifically spot on test. So I've tried to mix up the order a bit here because inevitably I'm going to learn a little bit about this putt as I go along. So I'm starting with the ping answer, and that said, I have hit this putt a few times beforehand just to get a feel of it so I know what's going on to try and make it as fair as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit 6 putts with each of these putters. I'm going to hit the first 3, go up there, measure the cumulative distance away of each 3 putts, come back, hit 3 more, do the same again, and the winner of this round is going to be the putter, obviously, that has the lowest cumulative distance. So let's start with the ping answer and roll some away. It's going to need hitting up that hill. Should get a little bit of help off the slope on the right. Hasn't quite made it. Not bad. Right, let's hit a few and see how we get on. Right, so that's the first 3 done at 14 feet cumulatively, so it's 1 foot, 5.5 and 7.5 feet. Right, so that was 24.5 feet second time round. I didn't really learn much there, that's not great. 24.5 and 14 is 38.5 feet to beat for the other 2. Let's go with the L.A.B next. Okay, so 15.5 feet there cumulatively. I thought it was a bit better than that. The one I thought I'd miss hit didn't quite make it as far up as I'd like and left me, I think it was 8.5 feet. So 15.5. The first lot of the ping was 14.5, so I'm behind schedule. So let's see how the second lot goes. Right, I've got to do my maths here, so it's 17 feet in total for the second lot, 15.5 for the first, so 32.5 feet. Let's see how that Wilson 8802 gets on. Right, so 16.5 feet to start with, so very similar to the first 2. So yeah, it's crunch time. Let's see if the old one can come up trumps on the last 3 putts. Right, well, let's put the cat amongst the pigeons. I was on 16.5 feet and I was cooking on gas there with those next 2. Well, just under 2 feet, so we'll add that one, so that's 2 feet together. And 9 feet, 11 feet to go with 16.5 feet is 27.5 feet. That's a comprehensive victory for the Wilson 8802 there. Right, outros and summaries are usually a little bit easier than this, but that was, as you've seen, relatively inconclusive. In terms of the shorter putting test, that was more comprehensive. The L.A.B was pretty much bulletproof there. 9 out of 10 was a great performance in that regard. And I have to say, I really did notice the difference of the face awareness or the face not wanting to move away from square. It felt a little bit more automatic to me in terms of just pointing, pulling the trigger, not manipulating face, and the ball was starting on line. With particularly the 8802, which scored a little bit lower, that was 5 out of 10. I did feel like I was trying to have to find square a little bit. I could actively sort of feel that putter, and that's a really strong example of toe hang, but I could feel it kind of working against me and having to refine square from when I set up. However, then when we went to the longer range test, the Wilson 8802 was brilliant. I nearly holed 3 of them, and it comprehensively won that test, which is against what I thought might happen based on the strike discrepancies and the lack of MOI and stability. So it's really put the cat amongst the pigeons for me there. But I think you'll agree that's a pretty small sample size. It's not a hugely scientific test. It's just a little glance at what's possible. So I have to say, make of it what you will, draw your own conclusions from it, but I have to say I really did enjoy putting with these older putters. The feel off the face of the Ping Answer was just beautiful, really lively. It's got that very familiar ping ting. And actually on the longer putts with the 802, I really enjoyed the feel of flow of the toe through the stroke, which might have something to do with the results. Like I said, I don't know what to make of it. I'm going to leave you to draw your own conclusions. But if you are in the market for any second-hand equipment, there's some brilliant bargains and some great old clubs on the Golf Clubs for Cash website, so get yourself over there.